Today, we're digging into a really fascinating story from the Wall Street Journal. It's all about how one small country, Ireland, managed to dramatically increase its exports to the US at a time when you'd think global trade would be slowing down. So let's jump right in.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the big picture to set the scene. Then we'll get into the economic context, simplify some key terms, and look at the core development, what actually happened. We'll explore the impact on the whole system, check out the winners and losers, and then wrap it all up with 3 key takeaways.
So, first things first, let's set the stage. You've got 2 economic powerhouses, right? The United States and the European Union, and they are constantly trading goods back and forth. We're talking billions of dollars worth of stuff crossing the Atlantic every single day. It's a huge deal.
But in 2025, things got a little complicated. Trade between the US and the EU hit a major hurdle: higher taxes on imported goods. Basically, it got more expensive for European companies to sell their products in America. And the expectation? Well, everyone thought trade would probably slow down.
And this, right here, is where the story takes a really surprising turn. Because in the middle of all that economic friction, something happened that pretty much nobody saw coming.
While most people were bracing for a slowdown, one small European country didn't just survive these tough conditions, it absolutely thrived, leaving a lot of economists scratching their heads.
And here is that jaw-dropping number, 52%. That's the increase in Ireland's exports to the United States. And get this wasn't over a few years. This happened in one single year. I mean, a jump that big, that fast, it's pretty much unheard of. And just to put that percentage into perspective, let's talk about the actual money. The value of goods Ireland sold to the US went from around 73.5 billion euros in 2024 to a whopping 111.7 billion euros in 2025. That is a massive leap in actual cash terms.
So, naturally, this brings us to the big mystery we're trying to solve here. How on earth did Ireland do this, especially with those higher trade taxes in the way? How did they not just get around that obstacle, but completely shatter their own export records?
All right, so let's get into the how. How did they pull this off? Well, the answer isn't that they suddenly started selling more of everything. Nope. It's almost all down to one single incredibly powerful industry. But before we get to that, let's quickly clear up what that trade hurdle actually is. Those higher taxes we mentioned, they have a name: tariffs. You've probably heard the term. A tariff is just a tax that a government, in this case the US, puts on imported goods. The whole point is to make them more expensive. So for Irish products to succeed like this, they had to be in such crazy high demand that this extra cost just didn't matter.
And here it is, the big reveal. What was driving this incredible surge? Medical and pharmaceutical products. This one category made up more than half of everything Ireland exported to the United States. So what kind of products are we talking about here exactly? We're talking about really high-value medical goods, complex pharmaceutical drugs, and this is a big one, the key ingredients for some of the world's most popular weight loss treatments. These aren't just any products, they're critical, and they are in extremely high demand. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This comes straight from an expert. Jane Berminge, a statistician at Ireland's Central Statistics Office, confirmed it, saying, and I'm quoting here, "More than half of all goods exported in 2025 were medical and pharmaceutical products." It really shows how Ireland has strategically become this global hub for these vital supplies.
Okay, so we've solved the how. We know it was all about pharmaceuticals. But now let's zoom back out and figure out why this is such a huge deal for the entire global trade system.
Now get ready for this statistic, because it's pretty wild. Thanks to that pharma boom, Ireland, a pretty small country population-wise, was responsible for 20%, that's 1/5, of all the goods shipped from the entire European Union to the United States. 1/5.
Just let that sink in for a second. That small bar representing Ireland is responsible for 1/5 of all exports, standing right next to the combined economic might of Germany, France, Italy, all the other EU countries put together. It's an incredible concentration of trade power.
So with a shift this big, you're always going to have some clear winners and, well, some who are feeling the pressure. The winners? Obviously, Ireland's economy is booming from this, and so are the giant pharmaceutical companies that are based there. On the flip side, other countries trying to compete in that pharma space are definitely under pressure. And for American consumers, this heavy reliance on these specific imported drugs is a factor in the high prices they often face.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground. So what are the big things you should really remember from all this?
It really boils down to three main points. First, the event. Ireland's exports to the U.S. just skyrocketed, jumping 52% in a single year against all odds. Second, the reason. This wasn't some broad economic miracle. It was super focused, driven almost entirely by high-value medical products. And third, the bigger implication. It shows us that in today's global economy, a smaller country can become a true heavyweight by specializing in one absolutely critical industry.
And that leaves us with a big question to chew on. As we look at the future of the global economy, what does it mean when a single, hyper-specialized industry becomes so important that it can essentially make traditional economic tools like tariffs ineffective? It's a fascinating look at how the rules of global trade might be changing right before our eyes.